So I just finished reading a manga that might be the darkest time travel / time loop story I've ever read. It's called Massacre Happy End, and not only is it dark, but it's also one of the most tragic and messed up stories I've seen in a while. So the story follows Makoto Kusakabe, a 17-year-old high schooler whose life is pretty terrible. His younger sister Shiori is sick in the hospital with a deadly disease, with their dad being a drunk who abuses him and wastes their money while his mom left them and him to deal with everything. So in order to pay for his sister's treatment, he has to work a lot of part-time jobs in order to afford the cost. But even through all of this, he still has high hopes. Even while dealing with the occasional bully and asshole that messes with him, he thinks if he works everything, the gods will be in his favor, and his sister is his pillar through all of this, even if his childhood friend Yae wants to help him. His entire character arc is that he puts this burden on his shoulders alone. But even the kindest souls begin to erode away over time, and he starts to lose it as he wonders why he has to deal with all of this, and prays to the gods that a new day better not come. But this is when he learns that a donor was found for Shiori, and she'll be able to get an operation that'll save her life in a month. Obviously, Kusakabe is ecstatic, and he wakes up the next day, but realizes things are off and quickly figures out that he's living the same day over and over, and it's continually July 10th. Not only that, but he also figures out that Shiori is time looping with him, which means that her condition is drastically worsening each day they reset, which means she doesn't have much longer to live if she doesn't get the treatment. And she can't get the treatment if the day time loops, and she time loops with it, so it's just a conundrum that basically just mindfucks him. So at the temple he prayed to the gods to, he goes back there and curses them, saying that this was their doing all along. And when the same prick from earlier comes to taunt him, this pushes Kusakabe over the edge, rightfully so, and he ends up bashing the dickhead's face in with a brick and kills him. Kusakabe freaks out but realizes that it won't matter since the day will reset anyway, but that doesn't happen and the next day is actually July 11th. But we and Kusakabe learn that the only way to open a door to the next day is to kill someone. So in order to save Shiori until she gets the operation, Kusakabe is going to kill one person a day for the next 30 days, so he still has 29 left to go. However, the police find the first victim's body and find the murder weapon still there, and since he does have a connection to Kusakabe, they narrow it down to him. But this is where we're introduced to the GOAT, Inspector Tsukumo, and the baddie of the series, Mizuno. The Inspector and Kusakabe go through the series having a light versus L type rivalry where Tsukumo narrows it down to Kusakabe, but just can't prove it until the very end of the series, as Kusakabe actually uses the time loop to his advantage in interesting and unique ways. In this instance, where the cops narrow it down to Kusakabe, is the first time we see him use the time loop to his advantage, as he doesn't kill someone and the date resets, but before the cops find the crime scene, he goes there first and removes the murder weapon. This starts Kusakabe's journey down a dark path that he can't stop himself from going down, and he drags everyone into hell with him. He starts off saying this is for his sister, and at the start of the story, he tries to only kill bad guys. For example, he kills a group of bullies that were about to, R-word a girl named Katagiri, and she finds out about Kusakabe and the time loop, but becomes obsessed with him, becoming a yandere and an antagonist throughout the story. Once Kusakabe grows desperate enough though, he starts to just kill anyone he can get his hands on, even if they've done nothing wrong. Like by the end of the series, he's killed tons of innocent people. He tries to go down this dark journey by himself. But like Katagiri, he brings other people down with him, the one major example being Yae. She's the primary love interest of the story, and Kusakabe tries to keep her at arm's reach to protect her. However, she eventually finds out everything about him, but she accepts him and decides to go into hell with him. But one thing about this story is that there is no happy ending for our boy, as spoilers, shit hits the fan as Yae ends up killing a disfigured Katagiri. She ends up getting arrested and offs herself in jail in order to give Kusakabe a chance at a new day. And it works because in an indirect fashion, it's Kusakabe's fault that she dies, all to ease the burden of having to kill one less person for him. After this though, all hope is pretty much lost for him, and the only goal he has is to save Shiori, as he sees no other way out of the situation. He finds his mom, and she has a whole other daughter, so Kusakabe finds out he has a half-sister, but his mom offs herself, and later on, Kusakabe kills his own dad, who he finds out isn't even his real dad, but his stepdad, so he's not even related to Shiori, as she's technically his stepsister, as she's the daughter of their stepdad or her dad from a previous marriage. However, after everything that's happened, he's just like, fuck it, it doesn't even matter. Not only that though, but he finds out that his mom sent a letter to try and reconcile, but still being angry as a kid, he tossed it without looking at it. And if he had took the time to actually read it, his family would have been together again, his sister wouldn't be in the hospital, and he wouldn't be in this situation, so everything that's happened in the story so far is technically his fault. At least from his point of view, and I feel that this just makes the manga even more bleak. All the while he's escaping from Inspector Tsukumo and the cops by outsmarting them and using the time loop to his advantage. For example, by not killing someone and then the day resets, giving him alibis for when he commits crimes the next days. Another example is killing someone by ripping out their organs and then holding onto their organs, as whenever someone touches him, they reset with him. So if he rips a guy's heart out, he'll reset, but so will the guy, and without a heart, he'll just fucking die. But also kidnapping a bunch of people, hooking them up so they die in a timer to prove that the time loop is also just a hoax. Definitely some out there ways of using it, but it makes it interesting and makes it more unique, and I like the way that the author delves into this idea. But all of this again is just to save his sister, and this series goes into one person's sense of justice and what's right and wrong, and the crazy part of it is that you can't really blame him for it. Because what else was he supposed to do? Just stay in the time loop without doing anything and let his sister die while going insane? He found a way out and took it, as he saw that was his only option. And sure, killing is wrong, and from the perspective of other characters, you see that Kusakabe is evil in a sense, but he does all of this because he doesn't have a choice. Now, getting into spoilers for the ending of the manga, he doesn't get a happy ending. He kills enough people to make it to August 10th, and in less than a month, Kusakabe is unrecognizable, and he himself knows he's a monster and there's no saving him. So in the end, in one of the saddest panels I've seen, Kusakabe falls to his death so that everyone trapped in the time loop with him can escape, and as he dies, he welcomes it with open arms, saying finally, and all the while all the corpses of the people he's killed drag him down. And the last thing he says as he smiles is that he'll always look after Shiori from here, from hell. As he hits the ground, in one of the goriest panels of the manga, you just see his dead body sprawled out. There's so much more to the story that I haven't talked about, but overall this manga just shows just how far someone will go to save a loved one, sacrificing their mind, body, and soul, so the person they love can have a happy life. Seeing Kusakabe go from a cheerful, upbeat older brother to a psychotic serial killer that'll end you without a second thought, all to save Shiori, has to be one of the darkest and one of my personal favorite character transformations that I've ever seen. And then you tie that in with all the dark aesthetics, story, and the goriest art I've seen in a while, this all combines to make Massacre Happy End a tragic manga that'll tug on your heartstrings, but is most definitely worth the read.